Oh no, you good? It's a bit. It's a bit. Oh God.
I think he said we're live.
Oh, we we good or we still need a second?
Can you hear me, Greg? It's
Let's say it again.
it's possible Greg can't hear. This is one. Yeah,
Okay,
Greg
now I
might
can
not.
hear. Now I can hear you. I can hear you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, now I can hear. I couldn't hear nobody at the time.
Yeah, he said we're live now.
Oh, so we can get. Oh, we can get started, or is it
That's what he
just
said. Yeah, that's what he said. I don't see him on there anymore. But he was saying that. Hold up. Yeah, it does say we're live up top.
okay? Bet if we live then. Sure, let's get it popping then. Man, welcome back to another episode, another illustrious episode of the Big Dogs on Campus. I'm your host Greg, my other host Coach Gio. Coach Gio, how you doing, man?
Listen, I believe,
Mm.
just not in last week, but
Mm.
but I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. I'm going to the Colts game versus the Ram on Sunday, so just getting ready for that, and just gonna enjoy some football this weekend.
Oh, okay, okay. Is Richardson on? Is he playing?
It looks like he is.
Okay.
It looks, they had a big win last week, against the
Yeah.
Ravens. I thought Gardner Minshew played well in most spots, and it's gonna be tough for the Rams. Wasn't a good showing on Monday night, so
True. That's very true. That'll be interesting to see, man. Look, a lot of people came to me and said, "Man, y'all didn't have no episode last week because y'all ain't believe no more." And I'm here to tell you, we still believe. I don't know where you thought this non-belief came from. I'm always a believer. You feel me? Like, come on now, let's stop playing with my name like that. But gotta recap last week before we go into anything further. Look, I told people that it was crazy for having 21 point, having Colorado as a 21 point underdog. I was obviously wrong, but what was your initial reaction to everything that happened when they played Oregon? Um,
which is wow. I mean, it was a manhandling to the fullest.
mm,
Oregon came in that game very focused. You saw Dan Lanning's
yeah,
pregame and clicks and this and all that. And look, at the end of the day, it was about what was going to happen on that field, and Oregon just took them apart.
yeah,
We saw Colorado's offensive line the last few weeks; they held up, right? But you see where Dion has to continue to recruit on both fronts, not just offensive line and defensive line. But they struggled big time. Shador didn't have any time back there. They couldn't get the running game going. Hunter's out. So
hmm
kudos to Oregon. Offensively, they just dominated. I mean, it looked like a team that shouldn't have been on the field on
hmm
Saturday. And but look, this happens in
yeah,
college football, and I think we knew that somewhere down the line this could potentially happen. Colorado getting exposed for some of the players they don't have just yet. And it's not that they don't have good linemen, it's just when you compare the big powers, right? Georgia, it used to be Alabama, right? Some of these other
yeah,
schools, right? Like
for sure.
you see the fronts, they're not there yet. But hey, Oregon, and what Dan Lane did was he really took all that stuff, right? He put it on the bulletin board, which is weird to me because they were the favorite. Like it wasn't like Colorado was a 21 point. They were the favorite coming in, and it felt like Dan was really pressing and really trying to get his team prepared. There was a report that apparently Dan Lanning was getting advice from other coaches on his game plan. I don't know how true that was, but Dion is just one game. Don't overreact. It's a big
Yeah.
game today, obviously at home against USC. But wow, I mean that was probably the word when watching that game. It was a it was a clinic out there.
Yeah, like I watched that. I watched that game and I was kind of unmotivated to watch any other games the rest of that day. I didn't really have no real passion after that. I was like, I mean, it is what it is. My alma mater, they're not even doing good this year either. I was like, I didn't want to cut that on either. I just wasn't. It just wasn't for me. College football just was not for me after that 40-point loss. But I will say, man, everything is going to start from the trenches. With this team. So that's definitely something that he obviously knows how to address, and he will need to address.
Oh yeah, no, he's gonna need to address. And look, let's be real. Bo Nick's been in college football for like 10 years. I
Oh
mean,
God,
it's like the dude was like an NFL quarterback here.
yeah,
Like, slow your roll, Oregon. I think they're going to have a hiccup somewhere down the line, but it just felt so personal. And I don't think Dion really made it personal about Oregon. Like, his
nah,
comments before the year, I think it was just the buildup, right? The talk. They don't like how they're talking and all this stuff, but they were a 21 point, underdog. And Bo Nix has been in the league for like 7 years. I mean, he was playing when Justin Herbert was a quarterback, right? Like,
yeah. And Justin Herbert been playing for like 4 years.
Tua was a senior, I believe. It's like, okay, like, you got the advantage. What's all this talk? But it ended up working for them at the end of the day.
Yeah, I think. Now, what I will say is, from a narrative perspective, I really am glad and I am appreciative that this game came at week 4 instead of week 1 or week 2. I will say that having this kind of game on week 1, I feel like the hype train doesn't become the hype that it is. Even if he has a game like this the first week, but then like the next 2 weeks he has good decent wins, where it's just not the same. But the fact that he had this momentum and then that Colorado State game week 3, and just to kind of dial it back a notch for week 4, getting ready for USC. Um, you know, now where they stand and where they have to improve, because they've been coming out of a lot of these games winning either pretty good, barely beating them by the skin of their teeth. You just had every facet of the game. So even for some of the best teams, you're gonna have a game like this. So it's all about going in and seeing what you could do for USC. Now going into USC, you still don't have Travis Hunter, which I was a little disappointed about, but I understand. Health matters at the end of the day. Definitely wanted to see that matchup between him and the receiver that they have over there, and Caleb Williams. But going in, this is in LA. If I'm not, is it in LA or is it in Colorado? Okay. Uh, well, what, I'm not expecting Colorado to win, but I do kind of expect a better performance than what I saw last week. I'll be very surprised if it's blowouts back to back weeks. But look, nothing can surprise me, but I'm not expecting it. What about you?
It's going to be an uphill battle for Colorado to win. Last week, I kind of watched some of that Arizona State versus USC. Arizona State was hanging around USC, making penalties, just not a team that was looking like ready to open up Pac-12 play. But I think Colorado can take something from that game. Look, you're going to have to push the ball. They're going to have to run the football. You're going to have to give Sanders some time. And it's possible that they really go into a running attack this week and really push. Look, USC has Caleb. They got a receiving core that's some of the best athletes in the country. look, their defense is going to have to hold up. If they want a shot in this game, keep Caleb at bay, run the football, and try to just keep that offense off the field as much as you can. Make plays, get your crowd into this. There's going to be a loud crowd over there in Colorado. I'm going to give the edge, though, to USC, though. I think USC wins this game, but I wouldn't be surprised if Colorado comes out and just try to establish a run. They could not run. I mean,
Yeah.
Greg, I think they're the worst rushing team in college football. I think they're ranked dead last right now. So
Yeah.
that's a problem. You got to run. I think that's one of the big keys is try to get the running game going, limit the quarterbacks, drop backs, getting hit, and then your defense. Listen, it's a bend don't break defense, right? So they're going to give up points. But can you limit Caleb possessions? And I think that's going to be crucial. Limit the possessions as much as you can. Arizona State, hey, it was a close game up into the fourth quarter, I believe. So, you know.
Yeah. I agree. I think that it's very weird from a rushing standpoint because they have some, they have some capable running backs. They activated McCaskill last week. That was like our best running back at University of Houston, and he ran a lot of yards. So that kind of just goes more into play about establishing and taking a fine look at the trenches um in this upcoming recruiting class, making sure that's established because he has that talent. Even Edwards, but he has that talent in the running back. Either you got to scheme it up a little bit better, do what you need to do something. Even if they have to, push it outside. I'm not sure how speedy these guys are. Um, but like you said, I'm not expecting them to win, but I'm definitely not expecting 40-0 either. You know what I mean? It's
No. Listen,
just
if you lose another 40, and they also got other matchups, right? I think they're playing Washington.
yeah.
It's
Good
a tough
point.
schedule. So you got to find wins. Look, this is a tall order, but you're at home at least, right? You got the crowd, you get the elevation there, hopefully. So they got some stuff going their way. Can they make enough plays? And I think they got to run the ball. I mean, look, I ain't no head coach, but if you're dead last in rushing, look, try to establish the run. You
Yeah.
know,
Don't make it too predictable for sure.
don't make it too predictable. So yeah, it's gonna be a fun game.
Yeah, it should be. Um, but speaking of Colorado, speaking of Travis Hunter seen hanging out with Henry Blackburn, bowling, doing stuff for his YouTube channel. It seems like he just kind of took the higher road, just kind of dapped him up and said everything was all good. And to me, it kind of seemed more like a not necessarily PR stunt because I feel like this is somebody this is something he would do anyway. He's a kid, seems cool. He always wearing a onesie on stream and stuff. But uh, what was your initial reaction to everything that was happening with Henry Blackburn post hit?
I mean, look, to me, it was a bit of a late. It was really on borderline of just a complete cheap shot. Dion obviously came out to defended him, right? Like
Yeah,
say, hey, like it's just a kid. It was a football play. It- you know, obviously he gets hurt, right?
right.
Shots to the liver. I mean, it's some bad stuff. Now, but they have one last week, Greg, with probably not. I don't
No, he's
I
not
don't
swinging.
think
No.
that was a tipping point to that. But it's unfortunate it happened. Colorado State, and I don't think I was on the show that following week, but I mean, they had like 15 sportsman like penalties. Dude, look, I get it, Greg. You want to be aggressive. You want to, and look, they damn near upset it, Colorado. But the penalties, what was that?
Insane.
It was
Very
like
insane.
there were late hits, clipping calls. It was like, dude, y'all is just very aggressive. But look, it happens in college football. Should he get death threats? No. I will say last week Travis Hunter was streaming while Colorado was down 35-0. That was a little kind of not weird. It was just like, okay, bro, your team's down like 40-0. You're just streaming on Twitch. That was a little weird, but
Yeah,
the overall situation is unfortunate. It happened, but it was good to see those two players together. Like I said, probably a PR type of thing. But look, the kid doesn't deserve to die.
that's
It's
crazy.
it's part of the game. Things get out of hand, and that game got out of hand.
Absolutely. Yeah, I for me, I really do think that it's probably PR, but it showed me a lot about how invested some of these people were, like in Deion Sanders. Of course, I'm a fan of Deion, but it's like the amount of stuff that like even national media members were saying on TV during that time, where it just kind of was like, yo, it just doesn't make sense for y'all to be going this hard on the kid, yeah, especially Michael Irvin. I was like, yo, I get it. You a super fan, like you really be with these kids, but when he was like, he should be suspended for however many games Travis Hunter is out. I was like, that's emotional. That's not transactional. You're being very emotional right
Yeah,
now
he's a
about this.
very emotional, and he's done some.
Yeah.
He's a very interesting guy, man. He's a very interesting dude. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah, so I see stuff like this, and it's just like, all right, okay, let's. I can tell the people that are watching college football versus we're just here because we like Coach Prime. Um, is a very clear cut as day thing. But overall, I don't think, like you said, Jill, he didn't deserve everything that happened to him. Um, but look, it was a good game nonetheless. And for and then I saw when Travis Hunter was streaming, and like my first reaction was, okay, like I'm not saying it's bad. I'm not saying it's bad, but it's just kind of like, and I don't want to compare it to like skipping school or faking sick. You know what I mean? I don't want to compare it because he technically didn't do anything wrong. But sometimes, you know what I mean. Like if I was sick, if I was skipping school, I wouldn't show myself online. You know what I mean? I would just be incognito with it. You know what I mean? I know money has to be made, speedy recovery, but like, I wouldn't expect him to watch the game though, because I'm not watching no 35-0 game, and I know my guys just keep getting sacked. I wouldn't watch it, but I wouldn't tell the world that I'm not watching it either. You know what I mean? Just keep that on the wraps, but it is what it is. Going on, leading into as we're doing next week topics. Uh I'm seeing. Well, first of all, Colorado was out the top 25. Am I surprised? Not really, but at the same time, I don't really be getting these college rankings anyway. When a team that's better than you beats you and you still slide all the way down like that, always confuses me. But I
Yeah,
get
I
it.
mean it was. I don't think they should have slid out. I, you know, there's some new teams in the top 25, but
Yeah,
I guess when you lose by that much and so convincing, they're like, well, could they
yeah,
be any of those other remaining schools up to 25?
yeah. We'll see. And I think that another thing that I was seeing that Alabama, I think is 12 right now.
Look, that USF that game was I've never seen Alabama like an out conference play like that against USF. If USF had a damn offense, USF would have won.
Yeah.
If they had some sort of offense, they're probably winning that game.
Yeah, I can see that. I think that with Alabama being where they are, the fact that they've only lost one game, but we talk about Alabama like they 0-4 because their performances just kind of feel like a winless team for real. But I mean, realistically, if they were to get you some convincing wins and win out, do you feel like they have a real shot at getting back to playoff contention this year. Does it expand this year? Or is that next year?
No, I think it's next year, and
Next year. So it's still 4 teams.
I just don't. I don't see it.
You don't
I
see it?
just don't see. I mean, the loss to Texas. They beat Ole Miss. Ole Miss though, they got injuries on both sides of football, and they just. I knew Alabama was going to break away that game. You saw it coming. Ole Miss just couldn't get the ball in the red zone,
For sure.
and Alabama finally getting in. But no, I think they're going to have another hiccup. It's probably going to be against LSU. Texas A&M has given them issues over the last few years, so I don't think so, Greg. I just not from what I've seen right now. You struggle at USF. Why was that game at USF anyway? Normally Alabama would have the game at home, but I know that was a few weeks ago, and they did beat Ole Miss
Yeah.
last week. But the last 2 weeks, I don't know. Right? They're not looking too good, man.
Um, I I don't think I hope they don't. I hope they don't get it together. I'm kind of tired of seeing any maroon team in postseason play, whether it be Alabama, whether it be A&M, whether it be Mississippi State. I'm not really trying to see no kind of maroon teams this year for real. It's just really it's time to see some new people. I'm not gonna lie, but um, I feel like I really feel like they one competent quarterback away from making something shake, but it's just not. I just don't think it's this year. I don't think it's this year at all. And then hopefully Nick Saban can probably retool for next year, maybe. But I see him staying in that 9 to 10 spot. I also see Texas is at number 3. Now I've given Texas a lot of flack. I've definitely told you, this is a team I definitely don't believe in. And that doesn't change because they beat Alabama. Like I that doesn't change because they beat Alabama to me. Not the way Alabama. This is not the same Alabama that I'm used to seeing. So
No,
you beating
no.
Alabama that and saying you're back and you're number 3. I'm not saying it's too high because look, the record is the record. You play who you play. But for postseason play, there's a few teams I feel like can beat UT pretty handily, in my opinion. But I could be definitely wrong. They could prove me wrong, but I just don't see it. I don't see it, and it may be all the way to the national championship game before I just say, you know what, I believe. I don't believe. I don't think I can.
Yeah, I just not right now. Unless things change on offense, their defense, you know, they're solid, a little bit bend don't break these days. It looks like, but
Yeah,
the quarterback situation we saw it against USF a few weeks ago. Kind of been up and down, and then against Ole Miss, getting a little bit on track. But I think LSU is going to probably beat them. LSU could put up points, and I mean, I'm not saying Vanderbilt's going to beat them, but it's, you know, I just don't see them getting in.
yeah. Now, before we go into underrated games that we're looking forward to, definitely wanted to bring this topic up because I think at the time I wanted to talk about this last week. We just weren't able to have a pod. But is the Pac-12 the most exciting conference to watch this season? And what does this mean to the conference given the controversy of teams leaving? Like does like is this a bittersweet moment? Does this even mean anything that the Pac-12 is doing so well this season? This season, like you have Colorado, we have USC, people talking about Washington a lot. All of these teams that you are having in the Pac-12, knowing that a good chunk of them will be gone next year. Like, what does that even say for the Pac-12?
It's unfortunate, and it really doesn't mean much to me. Uh, it's been exciting. It's been more exciting to watch those games than the SEC. The SEC has been kind of mundane this year, even though
Yeah,
I have my Georgia jersey on, but it just hasn't been the same. And I mean, look at the quarterbacks.
yeah,
Bo Nix, I know he's been there for like 10 years.
yeah,
You got Pickens Jr. I mean, there's so many guys. Caleb, right? It's a lot of dudes in there, really pushing it, and the conference is going to dissolve. I heard a rumor that recruits from Washington State are being told, "Hey, we're going out of this conference." So
Mm.
this conference is going to be no more. I mean, listen, you can't. Fresno State, some of those teams in the Mountain West. I mean, are you going to take half of those teams? Like, I just don't see it.
Yeah,
What do you have left? What if Oregon State stays? That's going to be like the best team, probably. I mean, it's like
yeah,
I don't know where that goes. It's bad because Pac-12 has always been kind of an offensive driven league, but this year's been so exciting and probably because also Dion as well, right? Like it's kind of brung and he'll bring that to the
yeah,
Big 12 next season. But it's unfortunate for a conference that had so much history and so much just passion that now UCLA. Think about this, Greg. UCLA and USC are going to the Big Ten. That is just
yeah.
mind-boggling
That's
to me.
crazy.
I think it makes sense for those two teams to go there, but UCLA going to Indiana in December, Purdue, Minnesota, which is actually very cold in the winter. Like it's going to be
Yeah,
interesting. Those two teams going into that conference and having to play that type of schedule on the road, it's just going to bring even more excitement to the Big Ten, and you're going to have more competitive teams there. So it sucks. They just couldn't. I think it was that TV deal that really,
yeah,
really messed it up. They wanted, I think the commissioners wanted to give them less money or something. Case maybe I don't remember, but at the end of the day, most of the teams are leaving. I mean, what Stanford and Cal are going to ACC, I believe.
I believe, and then
So
yeah,
it's so many different moving parts that
yeah,
hey,
yeah. I mean, it's a lot of moving part. I think there's a lot of teams that just been moving. I mean, you got Big 12 teams moving to the SEC, and the Big 12 recouping and getting some quality teams.
yeah, it's been. I mean, UCF went to the Big 12 this year.
Yeah,
I mean, you got so much movement going on.
yeah. Houston went to the Big 12. You won't really see that effect until basketball season starts because it's not looking good right now. But then you have all those West Coast teams going to the Big Ten, and then SMU's going somewhere, and then you got some of these independent teams that are starting to get lured
What
into conferences. I
it was
believe.
good to see Notre Dame finally
Yeah,
switch, but I just don't think. I mean, because in basketball they're in the ACC, I believe. So
yeah, I think so. Yeah, yeah. It'll be that'll definitely be interesting. Um, to go with, but moving forward, I think an underrated. If I have to go with my underrated games, my underrated game of the week would be. Let me see. I'm I'm drawing a blank here. Oh, uh, honestly, well, I don't think Kansas versus Texas is an underrated game. It's just an exciting game I want to see, and of course, Notre Dame Duke would probably be a game that people would be watching. But if I have to say underrated, probably South Carolina, Tennessee. Probably South Carolina, Tennessee would probably be my underrated game of the week. Uh, Gio, we're talking about underrated games of the
yeah,
week. Which one
can you guys
do
hear
you
me?
see on? Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, which team? Which game this week or today is something that people may not
I
be tuning into, but it's gonna be a good one.
Not that they won't tune in to that Duke and Notre Dame game, but
I was thinking
listen,
about that.
Notre Dame coming off of a tough loss at home, and then now you're at Duke over there, and I think it's Durham, North Carolina, and Duke's been hot. I mean, they've been playing very well. Good setup. They beat Clemson. Notre Dame to go there. I think the spread's what -5. I think that's such a
Yeah,
trap game for them. after that big high, having to go now on the road to a team that's been hot. It's not an underrated game, clearly, because people are going to be talking about it. But uh, that to me is going to be a big game. There's a few other ones. Clemson against Syracuse. Um, you know, Clemson right now, dude. Had a big opportunity last week. Missed that. I believe they missed that kick
Yeah, I think so.
from the
Yeah.
kicker. And it's funny that kicker that they bring him in the week before, he was supposed to go to New York for a job,
Oh, wow.
and he's kicking, and it just doesn't work out well. Syracuse 4-0, so that's a big tipping point game. Um, but that Duke Notre Dame game is going to be good. I mean, Michigan, Nebraska. Like I picked Nebraska a few weeks ago to beat Colorado. That didn't work out too well. So Michigan right now, they look just like a sleeping, just kind of just going through the motions. But when you look at the slate of games this week, Greg, I mean, it's Georgia versus Auburn. I mean, hey, Houston versus Texas Tech. I mean, that's
Yeah.
kind of a big underrated game, at least for y'all. But
It's not it's not underrated. I'm
oh,
sad to
how
tell
about
you.
this game though? Kansas against Texas.
Now that one,
That game and Jalen
yes,
Daniels at quarterback. I saw some of that game last week against BYU. They were able to squeak it out.
I think they can win it.
Uh, Kansas to me, Jalen Daniels, they against the quarterback of Texas Urs. It's gonna I think could be a really good game, and I hope Kansas comes in. Kansas has been a program on the rise over the last 2 years,
Yeah.
and they're getting a new football stadium soon as well, I believe. So, hey, that's a game I want to watch some of it if I can. That might be probably one of the bigger games this week when you're looking at the slate.
Yeah, they tip off. Yeah, they tip off at 3:30, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I'm definitely rooting for Kansas. Last year they set the tone really early with a 5-0 record, and it kind of caught a lot of people off by surprise. They're just so used to them being a basketball school. So for them to they just kind of
You
take
know,
take Texas down a notch because this is it's a little
last
crazy
year,
season.
if Jalen Daniels doesn't go down at quarterback,
Yeah,
well, I think they really have a lot more football to play. And right now they're playing with house money. So Texas better, which I know they're not taking Kansas for lightly because it's Kansas football, but that's a game. That'd be one of the bigger games this week. Not the best slate, obviously, besides Colorado, and USC. Most of the other games,
LSU, Ole Miss, maybe.
that's another one. I
Um,
did forget about that USC slate.
yeah,
I mean
this
the SEC.
yeah, for sure. That one, but other than that, you're right. I mean, Florida, Kentucky, eh. Florida just be surprised. It's just like I see Florida. I'm like, Florida not gonna do nothing, and then they do something. It's like, okay, it's one of those games. Florida's always a game I don't watch at the start. I start like at the third quarter, and it's like, oh, like this is a game. Like this
Yeah,
can be
Florida's just
something.
kind of been hanging around.
Yeah.
um, another game that I was taking a look at. Do you think Mississippi State could beat Alabama this week?
Ooh, the Battle of the Maroons. Now that's interesting for me because I think Mississippi State may have a chance. I just really have not been with that quarterback situation they got at Alabama. I feel like any team has an opportunity to beat Alabama. Alabama should not be heavy favorites for anybody that's in the SEC. That's just me. That's me personally. They got them at an 87% chance of winning. That's more of like a 60-40 game to me.
Yeah, Will Rogers, the quarterback over there at Mississippi State, he's played well. 6 touchdowns, 1 interception. They
Yeah.
can put up points. Alabama, Ole Miss couldn't put up points. USF, of course, couldn't put up points. Texas, of course.
No.
But hey, they're gonna sling it around. They still have that offensive Mike Leach. Rest in
Yeah.
peace. So they're an up and down team. They want to put points up. Look, I would not be surprised if Mississippi State wins. Uh, that spread is 14.5. I think that might be a little too high.
Yeah,
It
it's too high.
really now would I take Mississippi State plus 14 and a half? I don't know, but hey, y'all watch that game because I think Mississippi State has a great chance of beating Alabama this week if their offense can continue that hot streak. You saw them last week against South Carolina. Even though they lost, I mean, they still
Yeah.
put up some points.
Yeah, I just think Alabama is just prone to turning this ball over at least once throughout this game. I don't see them playing any clean football this go round. And when you do that, and you give Mississippi State some good field advantage, it's just anything can happen. But um, going from underrated games to you know premature. Well, it's not premature anymore. We're definitely deep into college football season. Heisman Watch of the Week. You already have players that we've talked about. Has there been anybody that has moved up or has you know given you a consideration of, okay, this he might be in a running, he might be a dark horse. Anybody that you see last week or somebody that you're looking forward to this week, that's
I
been giving
mean,
you Heisman moments.
Michael Penix Jr. I mean, this kid has
Yeah,
been.
you've
I
been
mean,
looking
look,
nice, bro.
look. You know what's crazy? The dude a few years ago was at Indiana, my girlfriend's alma mater. The dude was
Hmm.
there, and dude changes is just he's now a Heisman hopeful. I mean, he had over 300 yards. I get it. Is Cal, but they were up, and I think I checked that score. It was like 30-0, 35 nothing at half or something like that.
Oh God.
76 completion percentage. He has just been playing so well. To me, I think he's a little ahead of Caleb right now
Okay.
because Caleb has those 5 star. He has that offense. He has those. But man, Pickens has just been playing phenomenal. That whole offense has just been phenomenal. I'm going to give the edge though to Michael, and I also just like that kind of underdog kind of
Oh, for sure.
mentality. I mean, the dude has 15 touchdown passes already. I mean,
That is
it's
that is true. And I don't think there's real voters fatigue when it comes to Heisman trophies. But I will say that when you've won it the year before and people know how good you have to play
yeah,
even better. Like you can't have the same level of play from last year to this year. Not saying that he's not elite or anything, but you got to almost just outdo yourself the year after before it could just be a clear cut. Because if you have anybody that comes up and catches folks off guard of how good they're playing, even if they're at the same level as you, it just looks different on screen. And Michael Penix just looks really different on screen
no,
right
he
now. It's crazy.
he does, and then the other quarterback in the same state, in Cam Ward,
Yeah,
he's
Cam
had a
Ward is
really good
cold
year. He
too.
had about 4 touchdowns, beat Oregon State last week. I mean, he's another kid. Bo Nix. I mean, look for what it is.
All right, Odie, for sure.
Bo Nix has been a guy. He's playing well right now. If he keeps it up, if they go undefeated, it's possible, right? But right now, Michael is to me the head. Caleb, and then give me Cam Ward. Give me that other quarterback in Washington. I like that three. And look, they all play in the same conference, Greg. And
Conference.
back to that conversation we had earlier is that man, I
That's
couldn't
crazy, man.
I couldn't fix out. And then you got Bo Nix. I just forgot he's the fourth one of it. It's like
Yeah, they're all in that
they're
conference. Like,
all in the same conference, and
and you got Shadur that nobody. I mean, like, you add like all of these players at the quarterback position. It's just like, man, what a way to send off Pac-12. Because I mean, it's gonna look crazy after this. For me, I think that you got from a non-quarterback perspective. I still got my faith in Marvin Harrison to kind
Okay.
of give me a little something. He had a little, whatever first week, but he's been making some crazy catches these past couple of weeks. Definitely just want to make sure he gets out, you know, healthy, because there was a few times I'm like, yo, all right, man, let's not overdo it, knowing that you
Well,
got to
yeah,
go to the league.
he had that hit. I forgot what game it was. It just didn't look good.
Yeah,
Also,
so
the quarterback situation
the best.
isn't the best right now, and you're tied to your quarterback, and uh, I do feel like he may have a year, Greg, if it kind of continues, kind of being that.
Hmm.
I don't think scouts would hold it against him though. I just think
Oh
he's so
no, no,
much of
no.
a talent that look, you still have to you know
Yeah, you're gonna have to get like on some DeAndre Hopkins kind of thing. You have to just make it work. But I mean, me personally, I still think he'll be a first round draft pick off rip. It's just he won't be in these Heisman considerations because it's just he does not have that quarterback that's going to make him successful, like a Devontae Smith, like somebody else that may be out there. But yeah, this might be I'm almost for certain it's going to be a quarterback award this year.
oh
There's
yeah, no, yeah,
there's no
there's
there's no
there ain't
Saquon.
nobody else really, bro.
There's no Jonathan Taylor or Saquon coming out there that's just going crazy with it. So it's definitely going to be somebody in that Pac-12 going to get it, and that's real. And like I said, we had that conversation with the Pac-12.
I mean, it could be Bo Nix for all we know. I mean,
Yeah, I mean the Pac-12 bringing the Heisman on this year is just so, man. I would be frustrated if I was really like in the Pac-12 for real, like a
well,
fan of the Pac-12.
so
I would be
much
a little upset.
history and the rivalries. Like I now, of course, USC, UCLA. I'm sure they're going to still play, and I'm sure these teams are going to still try to play. The problem is in the Big Ten, though. Like, there's going to be so many schools. You're not going to be able because remember these teams want to still schedule your cupcakes. You know what I'm saying? Like,
You know,
how much space do you have? If you're Cal to schedule UCLA or USC, like the
yeah,
rivalries would definitely hurt for sure in a lot of cases. I
yeah.
mean, Stanford, USC, you, I mean, you probably won't get that. So
Yeah, Big Ten is that's gonna be tough.
it's gonna be tough to schedule these out of conference games when you're having even more teams now. Because the last two teams that went to Big Ten was Rutgers and Maryland.
Mm.
So you had two more teams, and I think they're doing away with the divisions in the Big Ten just because there's just going to be too many teams.
Okay, that makes sense.
So now you're gonna, for a school like Indiana, which I watch because of my girlfriend, but they have a chance now to schedule some other schools, and they're playing UCLA next year. So it's gonna be interesting in the Big Ten. But yeah, man, Pac-12, man, rest in peace, because you know, and also in the new college football game that's coming out next year, I believe they're probably going to be not there in the game. So
Oh yeah, that. Hey, look, man, it's enjoy it while you can, man, because this is peak. This is peak. This is peak
but if
Pac-12 right now.
Washington State goes to the Big Ten, listen, it's going to be fun. I think
Oh yeah,
the new teams coming in, Washington State kind of more like the Midwest because it kind of rains and there's kind of muddy and very gloomy weather, but it's going to be interesting.
that's so bad. Final thoughts on college football today. What do you see happening before we sign off? What's something crazy that you think may happen, may not happen, or any final
I
thoughts that you
think
may have?
Mississippi State
Mm.
beats Alabama today, and I think they got enough points to really push it. And if they lose today, I mean, listen, Alabama fans have already been panicking, but if they lose today,
Oh yeah,
that
real
whole playoff
conversations.
is done. See you next year. And the NIL,
Get your money up.
look, for it is what it is. Someone asked Nick Saban, Greg, oh, we heard that Ohio State reported that they had to pay a player to come visit $5,000. He said, "Oh, I don't know anything about that. Well, of
What?
course you don't because someone else is handling it. But that's what's happening right now. You got to pay, and I'm just surprised they don't have a quarterback in there that can. But maybe they're not paying their quarterbacks. But Mississippi State, I think, got a good shot. That spread is high to me for a
Mm,
Mississippi State team who can actually put up points. But another game, Kansas versus Texas. Y'all make sure you watch that game. Two good quarterbacks, and I think Kansas has a good shot at upsetting them on the road. And then Duke Notre Dame. I think Notre Dame will come on top, but Duke's been flying around, man. You know, all those smart kids over there at Duke. Hey, look, Notre Dame better come to play because Duke will be prepared. Those are the three games must watch
mm.
uh, for y'all. Obviously, USC, Colorado, whatever the case
Yeah,
may be.
it,
But
that's gonna sell itself.
that's just
We
so
ain't got to
it's.
convince y'all to watch Colorado USC. That's probably something some of y'all gonna be on the West Coast eating Cheerios watching that. It's still gonna
Yeah,
be breakfast time
so
to the time, y'all.
that to
Yeah.
me is a big game. And of course, my jersey's Georgia if you want to catch. Georgia
Mm.
versus Auburn, the longest or the oldest rivalry in the South, yada yada yada. Wait, isn't this guy an Auburn fan?
Oh well,
Um,
Bruce Harper.
no, Melvin, right?
Oh, Melvin is an Auburn fan. He is definitely
That's
an
why he
Auburn.
didn't come on. Oh, Melvin, I
Ah,
get you, boy.
Mel.
Mel,
That's
that's
a,
what it was, Mel. Come on, man. You
that's
still could
something
have
we
came
have to.
on.
That's something we have to talk about next week. That's crazy. That's nasty. I'm not gonna lie to you, man.
No, come on,
That's
man. Really? I was just playing.
before that. Bruce Harper was like, "Do you feel like Alabama's not good anymore? I feel like Alabama got a lot of money, but they're not paying the NIL, so they cheat and get what they deserve for they got for the problems. No, I'm a fan of the Big Ten. Oh no, Bruce, no, it was miscommunications. I thought he was talking about you. My fault. Um, no, I mean to Alabama standards. Of course, I feel like they're not good. I don't think they're good enough to be a part of the playoff conversation because they just don't look. The games that they won were just not either they weren't convincing or there was teams that they had no business being competitive with. Um, or they lost to Texas and that game just looks bad. That quarterback play just looks awful. I'm not saying the whole team looks bad, but the offense just looks so bad to me that it's just for me it's borderline unwatchable when Milrow is at the quarterback
Do
position.
you do you think, Greg, that because I think that's a good point that Bruce brought up that they're cheap, and I'm getting a sense from Nick Saban's kind of demeanor is that they are cheap. It's
Yeah,
like they have the money, but I think Nick might be stubborn, right? Says no, like
they can't be making the same as me.
I'm getting a
I
sense that
can't
they're
do
doing
it.
that, and could it be happening at Georgia? I don't know. Like Georgia still has some really good athletes. Probably not the athletes of the last 2 years, because hey, look, those teams. I mean, look at the Eagles. I mean, they damn near drafted the entire
Yeah,
freaking Georgia defense.
yeah,
So
crazy.
Georgia still has, and Georgia's quarterback. To me, Greg, it's quarterback play.
It is.
I think at the end of the day, sure the SEC we talk about defense and all that stuff. Look, that's this ain't
Whole thing.
2010, man. This is a different time. You need a quarterback, and occasionally you definitely need a running game. But the QB, you need a quarterback, and Georgia will be tested with their with their quarterback soon. So hey, Alabama just hasn't worked out, even though they've won games. But that USF game was, bro, that was bad. That to me could be like the lowest point of the year.
USF was kind of crazy. Like we're not even talking about UCF. We're
Yeah,
talking about
yeah. The University
USF.
of Central Florida in Tampa, and by the way, they don't even have their stadium yet. They're over there playing in Tampa Bay's Buccaneer Stadium. There's like nobody there, dude.
Yeah,
Like
you
it's like
feel me?
nobody there. People out there at the beach. Ain't nobody watching that game, and there's no fans, and they still. I put that score like in the third quarter. I'm like, what the?
What are
What's
we?
going
Yes,
on?
like, come on, brother. What are we doing? If you want to watch a manslaughter on the TV, of course Houston versus Texas Tech will be playing today. But what I mean,
Hey, you know what?
I
Watch
you know,
out for Nebraska, Michigan. I know Nebraska probably gonna get blown out.
mm,
But hey, these Big Ten games always. I mean, look at last week. Minnesota was up big on Northwestern. I mean, I'm
yeah,
talking about big. And
huge,
Northwestern comes back, wins that
yeah.
game. Sometimes the Big Ten can be unpredictable. But we should have some good games, and I'm hoping for some upsets. Not Auburn versus Georgia, but I'm hoping for some upsets this week.
I don't think I asked you this, but I asked Melvin this. Like, where were you at during that Auburn Alabama game? You know exactly what I'm talking about. I don't even have to describe what we talking about.
Are you talking about uh,
Auburn's gonna win the football game.
the Harris one where he takes off that field goal
Yeah,
kick?
yeah. Where were you? Like,
So that
what?
had to been was that 2010?
I feel like it
I feel
has
like it
to
was
be.
2010.
Yeah, because was Cam Newton playing at the time? Was Cam playing that
No,
year? Because that's the only one that
that
makes sense.
that's a good. I don't remember. I mean, 2010. I was.
Because
It's
2011 was
crazy.
his rookie year, I believe. So I feel like it has to be 2010.
Hold on. Let me. That's a good question. I think was it 2010 was like the miracle. Um, no, yeah, I don't. Was it 2010 or was it 2011?
That's a good question. Whatever it was, it had to be a competent enough team for it to
No, no,
make
yeah.
sense. Yeah,
Where was I? I don't even remember. I do remember watching the game. I don't remember where I
yeah,
was at what time. I think that was the year though. Also, Auburn beat Georgia on a fluky. There was a pass play that was thrown by Auburn. Georgia guy tips it.
yeah.
Auburn gets it, and they score a touchdown. That may have been the same year, but no, that game was.
That was crazy. That was
And
a
the
crazy game.
fact that Nick Saban, you kicked that off, and I don't think they should have kicked it because you have your offensive line out on there, and then Auburn returns it for a touchdown because
Yeah,
it was a field goal that was essentially was short. So,
yeah.
um, but it's crazy to think Alabama from then to Alabama now. It's
Yo, it's just night and day. It's
that
night and
that
day.
stretch of defenses and just
Even running backs. Jesus.
even running backs. I mean, they were just. I remember playing when Georgia was playing. What's that big boy? Was it Eddie? What they had so
Eddie Lacy?
was it he went to
I think he went that.
they had a big one. I think
Yeah,
it had to be
it
him.
had to be him, unless you're talking about Trent Richardson or somebody.
I don't know. They all kind of all the same. But there was a
Yeah,
he played him one year in the championship game, and they them boys wore you down, man. Those big guys, and they had a lot of offensive linemen
yeah.
up front, and now it's a different time, and um, the transfer portal, dude, is it's crazy, man. You
Does
got
AJ
guys transferring all the time now, man.
how good is this team if you replace Milrow with AJ McCarron right now as a
Oh,
college
I'm
player?
sure they're undefeated because I
Mm,
think their defense has done enough for them to be undefeated at least at this point. Ole Miss, USF, of course, Texas was going to be a tough game, but there were so many
they'll pull through.
chances. Yeah,
Yeah, it was too
in
many chances
too
actually.
many
Yeah,
chances in that game for Alabama to actually win, so they would definitely be undefeated. And I think we would still be looking at them as a potential because right now Georgia's probably going to come out. I mean, obviously, so, a hiccup against Kentucky in a few weeks, or obviously Florida, but Georgia will probably come out of the East and then the West. I mean, I would say Alabama if McCarron was there, but I don't know. Maybe Mississippi State runs the show, or it's probably going to be LSU though, Greg. I
Mm.
think that's probably the team that we'll see. And they gave Georgia fits in that championship game last year, and then Ohio State put a lot of points on us. So,
Mm.
uh, yeah, no. If AJ McCarron was there, uh, shit, if Bo Nix was there, which who knows, maybe Bo Nix will be there next year, Greg. I
Who
have no
knows,
idea.
bro? He was just in Auburn. He was just in Auburn. So I mean, look,
He
it could
played
be one of
he
them.
played Auburn against Georgia, and then he had them because Georgia played Auburn. They played Oregon. Was it last year or maybe the year before? And Bo Nix was there. Tell me what the hell?
Yeah, it's crazy. And look, Alabama didn't make the playoffs with Bryce Young, so I don't know what I was really expecting this year. I think I came in a little naive.
You're
Just
right
kind of
though. I thought Alabama would take care of Texas, and now I think about it, that was not a good pick, Joe, because
that was not
they didn't
like I
do
don't know what we're
anything.
doing.
But I thought Georgia and I stay number one. I mean, look, it's very possible they could have a hiccup down the road. I've seen this team last few weeks. I'm not loving the starts. They're getting off to slow starts. Um, but that slow start, they still put up 45 points last week, I believe. So Georgia won't be tested until probably Kentucky, which I'll be at the Kentucky game
Okay,
in Athens. I'm gonna make the trip down there. But
okay.
yeah, I mean, Florida's gonna. I mean, and then they're at Tennessee. I'm not sure what Tennessee's gonna look like at the end of the year, honestly.
Mm.
Um, but Tennessee, listen, those football tickets you have against Georgia are ridiculous. Bro, that started off like at 350. Ridiculous.
Yo, like
Seriously.
Hendon Hooker not there no more. Let's relax, gang,
What
relax.
is that
What
Tennessee
we
team
doing?
gonna look like? Those ticket prices better come down. Ridiculous.
At least won something.
Just win something. I
Three
mean,
350 kind of
all their other
crazy. I ain't
games
gonna
are
lie
like
to you.
kind of decently priced, but when I looked at the Georgia game, I'm like, okay, at this point in the season, which is towards the end, like, what is your team going to look like? Like, is it going to be a competitive game? I ain't paying no 350 to watch
Nah.
Georgia kill you. I can watch that for free on my TV. So
At the crib, 4K. You know what I mean? Like there's no reason to spend that much money. No.
no.
Nah, not for Tennessee. Nah, man. But it's been a great episode nonetheless. Hopefully we are able to see some form of upset somewhere, some way, somehow, maybe even Houston. Who knows? Anything can happen. But make sure y'all to tap into the Sports Empire Network. Hopefully, we will be back next week to discuss the recaps and what is to come. Coach Gio, as always, man, it's always a pleasure.
Yes, sir. Appreciate it.
We'll see y'all guys next week.